There are people, and I'm saying this consciously, especially as a therapist, there are some people who seem to thrive in pain.
Okay.
As crazy as that sounds.
Very crazy. Let's talk about, you mentioned that some relatives are actually okay with being dependent. You know, that is something I ever mentioned somewhere, and people are like, no, you can't say that. The reason why they're asking us for money is because they don't have it. What is your response to that? It's true that some people are actually okay. And here, the truth is that, of course, there are some family members who you will help, and they will do everything to the best of their capacity to get themselves out of a bad situation, right? And mostly it's because they have a level of healing and awareness. But what do we do with these people who are okay with being dependent? Yeah, what do we do with these people who are okay with being dependent? Especially because I'll give a practical example of, I know people, and I've been there myself, where when you get a paycheck, you send these people so much money in the name of wanting them to accept you. Why are we buying acceptance, or what do we do about that?
Actually, most of the people who create dependency on others,
Yes,
they are actually acting from a point of insufficiency. They'll tell you all the reasons why they keep supporting them. They want them better. They want to see their family succeed. But actually, you're meeting your own inadequate needs.
how?
That by giving you, you regard me. This is the only attention time you give me attention.
Yes, that's true.
This is the only time you accept me. Hi, Susie.
Actually,
oh,
that's
you
the
are
only
the
time you
best.
receive a phone call.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you constantly buy that. As much as you're becoming an enabler, you're also meeting your own unmet need inside. That's why it becomes a cycle. You're dissatisfied, but you continue to buy the one particular thing. Yesterday, I laughed at a meme that was saying that, don't marry someone from church because it's like a hospital and some people are not responding to treatment. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very funny because there are people who don't respond to treatment.
Yes.
Again, there are people, and I'm saying this consciously, especially as a therapist, there are some people who seem to thrive in pain.
Okay.
As crazy as that sounds.
Very crazy. There are people who seem to thrive in pain.
Yes.
Yes.
Take, for example, a child who was sickly, and the parents were completely away, always abandoning.
Yes.
And the only time they got attention was when they were in pain. They embrace pain as a way of life, and they learn helplessness, and they feel if they heal their pain, attention will be taken away from them.
The two of them are connected. When I'm sick, I get attention. If I'm
Yes.
well, nobody cares.
Yes.
And so they become those adults who are dependent.
Exactly.
And so you, as the person who got the opportunity, it's not your job to save them, right? Am I right or wrong?
Yes. If you save them, you're continuing to enable the bad behavior. But even when, long after the parents die, they continue in their pain and continue dependence, because that's the only way they get attention. They never learned to offer themselves attention at some point in life,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So these dependent people are sick people, sick in the sense of, in terms of their mental wellness.
Yes.
When I say sick, we are talking about mental wellness here. But also, the person that enables them, teaches them that imagine it's perfectly fine to depend on me. And then at some point, the more you continue to enable, the more you become resentful, but you're continuing to teach them that it's okay.
You know, that's the problem with this cycle, is that at the end of the day, it leads to resentment. At first, it started as a good thing where I, as the person that I think I'm earning well and I'm thinking that I'm a good person, I started with this cycle with trying to help people, right? And then because the people you're trying to help might not be, and of course not all of them, be receptive, or because you're enabling this cycle, you end up resenting each other. And so it started from a point of love, and then now we hate each other.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it's a zero-sum game. There's no win.
And the more I hate you because you're stopping to provide,
Yes.
the more I guilt trip you, the more you feel horrible because you're also responding to your own traumas.
Yes.
Or the more I take away attention from you, the one I was giving you when you give me money.
Yes.
So both of us continue to suffer. I am suffering lack, and you are suffering lack because I am taking away what was giving you a high.
Oh,
So
no.
again, we continue in our dysfunction.
Yes.
And the feeling of lack is so overwhelming, and we continue the same patterns. Why? Come back to giving you the money and you giving me the acceptance. Or me imagining that you're giving me acceptance, because sometimes it's not really provided.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And the cycle is never ending. That's why, as much as you tell people it is simply survival skills, it is simply that you've taught people to be dependent on you, they'll never get, because there's their stake in there as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we, before we move on from that point, because this is something that I was told by a well-triber to ask you, how do we deal with mothers, with our moms, who are very good at manipulation? Because people told me that when it comes to black tax specifically, most of the time the issue comes from their mom, because their mom, there's a way your mother speaks to you, and then there's also the thing of you feeling that, yeah, she's my mother, I must help her. Of course, you already addressed that helping is good because life is a balance, but then moms are very good at manipulation, you know, how sweet talking and telling you things that make you feel that, you know, you are reminding you that they're your mother. Why do mothers do that? Why do they keep reminding us that they're our mothers, and therefore if we don't help, consequences are going to be there?
Because the mothers are struggling with their mental wellness, and because they are projecting the traumas to their children, and because the child has not built a healthy relationship with the mother. So what do I say to those ones who are manipulated by their mothers?
Yes.
Heal the relationship with your mother. Once you heal it, you will create healthy boundaries.
Yes.
Where you will love them immensely,
Yes.
but be able to say no to manipulation.
Yes.
Without healing, however much we give you tips, they will land on
deaf ears, and you'll not be able to sustain all these
Exactly.
tips. So, and of course, when you talk about healing, you mean seeking help from a professional, because it might not be obvious to everyone what healing means. Yes.
Now, one can heal without seeking professional help,
Okay.
but that can take you such a long time.
Yeah.
If you've lived 30 years of doing same thing,
Yes.
you might need another longer time to heal that. But professional help gives you a shorter curve, a shorter learning curve. So yes, that's the only essence of a professional. Otherwise, you can heal without them, but it definitely is going to take much longer.
Okay, and in relation to that also, firstborns. Firstborns, and I see this almost every day on Twitter and other social media platforms. Firstborns say that, how do they navigate the burden of being a firstborn? Because one thing that happened is that firstborns went through a situation of parentification, you know, where because you are the firstborn, you missed out on a lot of your childhood because you learned to take care of your other siblings, right? So you missed out on childhood, and this continues up to adulthood, in that you are expected, even your younger siblings, because they saw you as, actually people call it deputy parent, because they saw you as a deputy parent, even when they have a problem, they tend to outsource their problems to you, and so you keep fueling this situation.
We are now more woke when people are learning that a child is a child even when they are firstborns. You don't task them with the role of becoming a parent.
Yes.
If you do that, that first child is not going to struggle with what we are discussing today.
Yes.
So if you are parentified, then what you need to do is you need to reparent yourself. It's a healing process.
Yes.
Acknowledging the needs that your parents needed to meet and they did not meet, and you ended up meeting them by being the parent.
Yes.
So heal and provide yourself with their own needs.
Yes.
And that's what we call reparenting, right?
Yeah.
So when reparenting happens, then a child is able to move away from being a parent. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Of course, I know what that is, but it doesn't make sense to my, straight mind when a 31-year-old is parenting a 30-year-old, right? Yes. But because of the deep-seated woundedness where you learned that it's your responsibility to care for them, until you get to a point of healing and unlearning that actually it is not your responsibility, will never be, then that's the only time you can be able to move from that burden. So this burden, no one is going to take it away from yourself.
That's the point.
You have to walk into your own freedom.
Yes. I know, because you actually taught me that is that I should not sit down and expect people in my life to come and say, Agatha, here's the freedom. You know, we will no longer treat you like this. We will no longer ask for an X amount of money. It will never happen. Most likely, it will never happen. You will wait until your deathbed. And so it is your responsibility. You told me that it's your responsibility to grab the freedom by force, and to create that freedom, because otherwise it will never come. And that's the problem, is that people are waiting for their mothers, for their siblings, for their community to have a realization that, oh, you also need care. That, so Kumba, you have needs. People are waiting for the community and their parents to realize that. So as you say, it's your responsibility to do the work, to encourage, to seek help if you need to. And now that I've talked about the community, a lot of people, again, who grew up in situations that they were in poverty or they were not well off, you were brought up by communities, right? Even I refer to myself as a community child, because there are very many people who made sure that I had school fees, very many people who actually made sure I had clothing and food, and I've grown up in so many homes. But then what happens is that the community, this same community that brought you up, keeps telling you, and like there's somebody who told me that they're in a situation where when they go back to the village, because now they've made it and they're living in another country. When they go back to the village, somebody in their community will tell you, you remember I gave you a lift when you were in class 2? Somebody tell you remember I gave you a lift in class 2, why are you not giving me back money now? How do we deal with those community or societal expectations of, because I did X, you need to do Y?
First, let me begin by saying every person was raised by community as a sense of community responsibility.
Yes.
Meaning at some point you will understand the burden of someone being in the space you were at.
Yes.
And so highly likely you reach out to help where you feel you can help.
Yes.
And that is enough.
Yes.
And that is exactly the only thing required. Otherwise, as I said, if the parents are not present and the children are starving, it's the responsibility of me as an adult, not as a parent, I'm not their parent, to feed them. Because a child is dependent on an adult for survival, remember.
Yes.
So when community comes through for you, that is perfectly fine. But remember, a child has to depend on an adult. But when a child comes of age and they become adults themselves, they have to choose particular setups of the community they choose to serve and help. The community holistically is not entitled to what you have simply because some people helped you.
I think you taught me that if you don't take responsibility to define how you're supposed to give back to that community, then the community will define it for you.
Exactly.
And the problem is that most of the time, most likely the community will define it for you in such a painful manner that you actually at the end of the day end up where you started. Right?
Not even a painful manner. Yes. Painful is an understatement.
Yes.
A selfish manner. Because if I say, I gave you 100 bob, so give me 10,000, that is a selfish manner.
Yes.
The child needed that 100 bob for survival. Say, for example, I bought you a dress because the child had none. You're not walking without clothes, and then you demand of me to buy you something because you did the same. So that is a selfish gain when yours was a survival need.
Yes, yours was
right?
Because you were a child.
Because you were a child.
Yes.
So unless you define what survival needs you're going to meet in the community, then allowing people define for you, they will define from a place of selfishness.
That's true.
And that is going to be very, very hurtful. That's where the pain comes in.
So how do we keep our parents, our siblings, the extended community accountable?
You're only responsible for you.
Okay.
You are only responsible for yourself.
Yes.
And the moment you begin to do healthy things, initial stages is family, parents, and the community is going to push.
Yes.
And the more they push and they realize you're firm on your new person, then they begin to accept the new person. That is why they say change and the world will adjust.
Yes.
It is a fact.
Yes.
I also say a healthy person is responsible enough to know that neglecting people in your life basically is something different. Like, if I'm looking at my parents starving, I am working from a place of woundedness, right?
Yes.
However, how much I come through for my parent to be able to be fed is something different.
Yes.
Because if I am belaboring to train them skills to manage the 10,000 I send them on every month,
Yes.
and I belabor to train them with skills of money management, and over a period of 5 months, they do not want to be taught, then I have done my part.
Yes.
If they die, it is not my responsibility.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I have given my part.
Yes.
I have given you skills, I have given you the money, right? So it is not my responsibility. But if I feel the need to not do nothing for you, to not come through for anyone in the community, to not help anyone, clearly I'm also operating from a place of money woundedness.
Yes.
So it is the balance. So it is not me that is going to make people accountable. No, my responsibility is to do my part, heal my wounds,
Yes.
do the best that I know, give where I feel I need to give, and once I have given, I settle it there. It is not the work of the community to know how much I give, who I give, and why I give, who I give, right?
Yes.
So we give ourselves freedom to live.
Yes.
And about the society and other people being accountable, we have no such power.
Yeah, you have to give yourself the freedom to live, because also, of course, being a community child, you live with a lot of, you live and battle with a lot of guilt, because
Yes.
I was given, and therefore you feel like you have to sacrifice your whole self. And it's important that you brought that aspect, because I don't want people to watch this conversation and think that Joanna and Agatha are saying that when your parent, that you should leave your parents to starve. No, that is not what you're saying. You're saying there's a balance, and in that when you seek help and when you heal, when you're not dealing with any traumas, then you would be able for you to make the decision and to ascertain that by me giving X amount of money, I am helping and being able to make peace with the fact that this is what I can afford without also self-sabotaging myself, right? Because that's what we're saying. Because people might think that we're saying, let your parents starve in the village and don't give them money. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that if you heal, you will be able to ascertain and also not self-doubt. Because that is something else that you taught me, that we give X, but then you go back to your house and you doubt, did I do enough? You know, what do you have to say about that? Because people tend to self-doubt, but then something else you really taught me, that of course a child who grows up being guilt-tripped becomes an adult with self-doubt.
Yes. So you're still dealing with the unresolved guilt of your childhood and not being a sensible adult, because by the time I decide that 10,000 is what I can afford as is enough for my parents, then I am deciding that the very basic needs are met. And if I go back to self-doubt, then does it mean I need to take a loan so that I can continue to support my self-doubt? And people go to those extremes.
Yes, I've seen it, yes.
Which is not healthy.
Yes.
So when you find yourself self-doubting every time you support, either you haven't thought through it well,
Yes.
or you're responding to trauma in your past,
Yes.
where you were guilt-tripped, where you were made to self-doubt, where everything you did was questioned, where everything you had to deal with, you had to consult if it's okay, if it's not. So you're dealing with those kind of traumas,
Yes.
and therefore you need to heal from your trauma. But once you heal from your trauma and you make a decision, it's because you arrive to a point of, this is going to benefit me and I want to be supportive to you in this way. And then there's nothing to doubt, because you've thought through it. You've implemented that because you want to grow, so that you don't pass money traumas by expecting your children to care for you.
Yes.
So basically, you're just working to be a holistic individual.
Yeah, so there's a way to end this cycle. That's what we're saying. We
Exactly.
want you to get this so that you don't pass this to your children.
Yes.
And so can people come to you for this healing?
Yes.
How can they contact you?
So this is what we do day to day.
Yes.
I believe you'll be able to share my contact,
Yes, I will.
or the blog where there is a contact,
Yes.
whichever one.
Yes.
If they want to go through the content, it is perfectly fine. It is free.
Yes.
And yes, we are a number of us, so people should not worry. If 100 want to come,
Yes.
we will be able to serve
You'll
them.
be able to serve.
Yes.
So you'll be able to help people heal their traumas,
Yes.
so that they can live wholesome lives. Because as I keep repeating on this channel, life is for the living. You don't have to live your whole life carrying the baggage of your childhood. It's possible for you to leave the past in the past through healing and start living a wholesome, because yes, life is for the living. Thank you, Joan, for having this conversation with me, for empowering the Wealth Tribe. I'm sure we will invite you again because it was such a powerful conversation. And yes, we'll see you in the next session. So thank you guys for watching. As always, like, subscribe, and share with a friend.